All right, so welcome to DRM News Global. We are diving into something pretty interesting. I think
Yeah.
Olivia Munn,
Oh, yeah.
you know Olivia Munn
Oh, absolutely.
from back in the day, she was a Daily Show
Mhm.
correspondent, and she had this really pointed take, I think, on Trump and his tariff policies.
Right.
So we're going to look at some news articles
Yeah.
and kind of get to the bottom of like what her critique was really all about and all the actions that Trump took with tariffs.
Yeah.
You might have seen the headlines,
Yeah.
but we're going to break down exactly what she said and what it kind of suggests about what motivates these decisions.
And it is interesting, I mean, it's a comedy show.
Yeah.
The Daily Show, and they're taking on a pretty serious topic,
Right.
economic policies.
Exactly. And she was a correspondent there back in 2010, 2011.
Oh, wow.
And then she made this surprise appearance during Desi Lydick's monologue.
Okay.
And it wasn't just a random visit. It was all tied to what Trump had just said
Yeah.
at a National Republican Congressional Committee dinner
Right.
about tariffs,
It's interesting.
which are basically taxes on imported goods.
Right. Yeah.
And it was pretty bold what he said from what these articles say. Like he really was painting this picture of how other countries were reacting to him when he was putting these tariffs in place.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he was basically saying that they were kissing my ass
Oh, wow.
to avoid these tariffs. That's a direct quote.
Wow. Okay. So he's really playing up this leverage that he thinks he has.
Yeah, he really was emphasizing this leverage
Yeah.
that he had in international trade.
Gotcha.
Like he was the big guy.
It's definitely a very strong image he's creating there.
Right, and this is where it gets interesting and where Munn kind of really honed in.
Yeah.
Because like less than a day after all this,
Okay.
like super confident to talk about tariffs, Trump announces this 90-day pause
Okay.
on imposing new tariffs for
Sure.
most countries. And the big thing here, the big detail,
Yeah.
is China was not included
Oh.
in this pause.
Okay, so they were subject to those higher tariffs.
Right, and I think that's really key to kind of understanding what she was getting at.
That is interesting because you have him, saying one thing, being very like, yeah, I got this all under control.
Yeah.
And then almost immediately sort of backpedaling with most countries, not all.
Right.
Makes you wonder what his strategy is, really.
Right.
Or what motivated him to say those things in the first place.
Exactly. And that inconsistency is exactly what Olivia Munn was pointing out.
Gotcha.
And her main point wasn't even about the whole trade deficit thing.
Right.
When a country imports more than it exports.
Yeah.
It was more about what she thinks is really motivating Trump.
Right.
And she argued very clearly that this whole thing with the tariffs
Yeah.
and the pause, it's not about economics.
Okay.
It's about him needing attention and love.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
quite a statement.
Right. It's pretty bold. And she said straight up, this is all to make up for Donald Trump's enormous deficit of attention and love.
I mean, she's really putting forward the psychological interpretation of his decision-making.
Right.
It's like his personal needs are more important than any kind of strategy
Exactly.
or economics.
And she really hammered it home using her comedic skills with satire.
Oh, okay.
She broke down what she saw as Trump's messed up logic
Yeah.
behind this whole tariff strategy.
Gotcha.
So she was joking that he put tariffs on
Mm,
and it destroyed the global economy.
yeah.
And then he took them off.
Yeah.
So now it's only mostly destroyed.
I mean, that's a very pointed way
Yeah.
to talk about the impact of tariffs, or even if they are eased later.
Right.
Because it does cause a lot of disruption, and just taking them away doesn't fix everything.
Yeah, and she didn't stop there. She painted this really exaggerated picture
Mm-hmm.
of him trying to get better trade deals
Right.
and reduce the deficit. And she threw in these crazy scenarios,
Like what?
like 400% tariffs,
Wow.
bombing factories in other countries,
Oh, wow.
and even eating penguins.
Eating penguins.
Yeah, it was really bizarre.
That's really out there.
Right. But I think that's the point.
Yeah.
It's like she's highlighting
Yeah.
that maybe this isn't based on
Mm.
a rational economic strategy. Like she's taking it to the extreme
Mm-hmm.
to show there's no logic there. And the penguin thing,
Yeah.
it's funny, but it also just makes that point.
It really highlights that disconnect.
Right. And then she brings it all back
Mm-hmm.
to him needing validation with that whole kissing my ass analogy.
Mm.
She said he's just a boy standing in front of the world asking to have his ass kissed.
Wow.
And she tied that directly to the tariffs and the pause. It's all about him needing approval
Okay.
on the world stage.
I mean, it is provocative,
Yeah.
but it definitely gets her point across about the emotional side of all this. Is like she's saying it's not about economics, it's about ego.
Exactly. And Desi Lydic,
Right.
who was hosting the segment, she kind of countered that, Munn's idea that Trump could ever be satisfied,
Yeah.
with all this attention.
Okay.
She said, there's not enough attention in the world to make him feel like a human again.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty bleak. But I guess it makes sense if his motivation is this constant need for validation, this back and forth with the tariffs.
Yeah.
It might not be a one-time thing. It could be a pattern.
Right.
And, that's something to think about if it's not driven by strategy, but by something much deeper, something less predictable.
And Munn agreed. She just said, exactly, bitch.
Yeah.
Really punctuated that. Shared cynicism.
Okay.
Really reinforced that idea.
Yeah.
They both see these policy shifts as driven by emotion and not economics.
So basically what she's saying is that his critique isn't really about the details of tariffs or trade or anything like that. It's about this need for attention and this need to look powerful.
Exactly. It's about the image that he's projecting.
On the world stage. It's like a personality-driven
Yeah.
interpretation of policy.
Yeah. And it's interesting how that kind of takes hold in the public discourse.
Yeah.
The different way to look at things.
For sure.
It makes you wonder how often personal stuff is really behind these decisions.
Yeah.
Versus,
actual strategy.
Yeah. So to sum it all up, Olivia Munn's appearance on The Daily Show was a pretty critical look at Trump's tariff policies.
Yeah.
And she wasn't really talking about trade.
Right.
She was saying that these actions are all about him needing attention and validation, which she called a deficit of love, not about economics.
So she's drawing a clear contrast
Okay.
between her perspective,
Yeah.
which is, very much focused on the personal, and this more traditional understanding of trade. That's all about, countries and strategy and economics.
Right. And so the final thought here is if personality and motivations are really big factors in shaping these policies, what does that mean for how we understand and analyze these decisions? Going forward,
Yeah.
is this all just political commentary with jokes, or is it something more, something we need to think about when we see these things happen?
Definitely something to consider.
For sure.